Welcome to all our viewers today. I'm Patricia Provot. I'm the continental leader for the Americas, and I'm joined today by Mahijeet. Mahijeet is my counterpart in Asia, so hello, Mahijeet.
Good morning, Patricia, and greetings of the day. My name is Mahijeet Mishra, and Managing Director for Asia for Armstrong International. And we have today with us an esteemed guest joining us from Germany, Steffen from Combitherm. Welcome to this episode, Steffen. If you may please introduce yourself to us.
Yes, very good morning, Patricia. Very good morning, Mahijeet. Thanks for inviting me. My name is Steffen Klein. I'm the Manager Director of Combiterm, company located in south of Germany, close to Stuttgart. And yes, I'm really looking forward to our conversation now.
Thank you for joining us, Stefan. The session of today will be about industrial heat pumps. And why did we pick this topic? Because heat pumps are critical to solve the decarbonization challenge. We know that the light industry has a lot of waste streams, and heat pumps allow to recover all that waste heat and convert it into hot water that is usable. And by doing that, reducing basically up to 50% of CO2 emissions in a plant. So that's significant. And Armstrong and Combiterm have decided to partner together to take this challenge. Combiterm is an experienced, and Stefan will talk a little bit about that later, but experienced, globally recognized heat pump manufacturer. And Armstrong has a century of experience in optimizing thermal systems. So this collaboration really allows us to provide this solution and scale up globally for our customers. So Stefan, let's start with you. Can you talk a little bit about Combiterm, its history, and what you manufacture today?
Yeah, what's the story of Combiterm? Combiterm started some 50 years ago. My father founded a company together with some partners. And at the very beginning, he started with heat pumps, the humidification unit. And step by step, during the 70s, we developed. 78, we started with our own production hall. And then step by step, in the 80s, adding refrigeration. Early 90s, family Klein decided to take over all the shares. And this was where I started my venture with heat pumps in this business. So 1991, I invested in the company. I first earned money. And since 1996, I'm the managing director. So now more than 25 years, the managing director of Combiterm. With this development, the capacity of the heat pumps of the units that we are building increased. And in 2005, we made the next steps, deciding to start the development of high temperature heat pumps. And then, the mid-2015s, we met Mahijeet and started then together with Armstrong US, Armstrong India, our joint venture, by developing heat pumps together, distributing them. And this is where the journey Armstrong and Combiterm started. And today we are, Mahijeet, at a good level, Patricia in the US also. So we had several requests for cooperation. At the end, I decided for Armstrong, family-driven company, well-known global company, to distribute and to license the know-how that we built it over these 50 years.
Thank you for that background. But Mahijeet, you indeed have been manufacturing and selling heat pumps now for quite some years in India, for India. Can you talk a little bit about what drives heat pump demand in India and just your overall experience with heat pumps?
Yeah, sure. We had first time we had met Steffen was in end 2016, early 2017. That is when decarbonization had not become a kind of global buzzword. So that goes well with the Armstrong's Sage branding, wherein we have always been the trailblazer for the world. So that was wonderful. And then As for the demand, as you asked, Patricia, it is primarily for the light industries, namely food, pharmaceutical, kind of adhesives, and hospitality sector, wherein we have so far um, provided solutions to. And as for the applications that you asked, it for the hospitality, it is more primarily for the guest rooms, hot water supply, hot water to the guest rooms. For the food industry, so far that we have provided heat pump solutions revolves around chocolate manufacturing, wherein the conching as a process we had helped. In pharmaceutical, it has been on air handling unit, those kind of applications. So that's about the demand and the application. How has been the experience is your third question. Experience has been wonderful because we have seen the smile on the face of the customer. They indeed have saved energy. Whatever we had promised to them when we had studied their plant before proposing heat pump, and what they really realized after implementation kind of had matched, if not surpassed, the commitment. So seeing a smile on the face of the customer goes well with our main thing of providing an enjoyable experience to every customer, partner, and employee. So that's how I would say wonderful journey so far.
No, that's intriguing because as we start looking at heat pump applications here in the US, the one thing that I realize is they are not very well known in industrial customers. Everybody has heard the word heat pump, but it's like the pool heat pumps. And when you talk about larger heat pumps, it's like, oh, I did not know they existed. Or um, they have had challenges in the past, tried it, and they had challenges, so they don't think it's something that is well developed yet. So tell me a bit about your experience with hurdles in the industrial markets in India. What type of challenges? Why does it not seem so well understood?
Yeah, see, I agree with you when you say that heat pump is a known word or a known name across the world, but on the industrial segment, people know about heat pump, but the basic know-how is kind of requires more in-depth knowledge. So the biggest challenge that we had faced is about sizing the right heat pump. That is the biggest challenge that we had faced because uh, before sizing the heat pump, you need to spend considerable amount of time at the customer's premises in understanding their entire process, the peaks and valleys of demand, the heat source, the heat sink, and those kind of stuff. So that was the basic challenge that we had faced. Having said that, also is our strength because this go and to Stephen's point that a century-old company tying up with uh, uh, a century-old thermal expert tying up with Combitherm, because we know the subject better on thermal. It has always helped Armstrong to provide the right solution to the customer, but that's the biggest challenge that we face. And on the same vein, maybe I can ask Stephen, like from your perspective, Stephen, where do you see the more challenges or the maintenance need or requirements when it comes to heat pump?
Yeah. So one of the challenge is to create a unit which is at the same time efficient, reliable, affordable, and having a long lifetime. So once the unit built and is in operation, maintenance is getting a key point. Maintenance to keep the unit running, to observe it, to monitor, and to assure that it's really running for 20, 25, 30 years continuously at the application which is related to the customer. So also adopting once the application or the process, the production process is changing, and then just keeping an eye on all the components, replacing, overhauling, repairing at the right time. So customer is happy with his unit for decades. So maintenance for us is one key point for the success of the heat pump and the corresponding production process.
That's eye-opening, Stefan. It's we and I visited your facility. It's the way you designed the heat pumps, really with that attention to optimal performance, but then also picking those components to make sure that we have reliability, longevity. Really a beautiful unit. I'm like stunned by the unit, and 25 years of operation. That's unheard of. That's impressive. So super excited about being able to promote the technology here in the US market. Speaking about designs, about technology, I know that you have been working for quite some years now on that high temperature heat pump. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is high temperature, and was that an easy development?
Yeah, it's never easy. But we started in 2005, defining what is a high temperature heat pump, saying, okay, more than 80 degrees Celsius, we define it as high temperature. Below that, it's more or less standard, not easy, but more or less standard. And step by step, we increase the temperatures our heat pumps are able to achieve. And the last big step, the step over the 100 degrees Celsius, was started 5 years ago, together with one of our partners here in Stuttgart area for compressors called Bitzer, one of the largest independent supplier of compressors in the world. They developed the screw compressor, the corresponding compressor, which was not easy. Of course, 120 degrees Celsius, you have to look at all the components, the oil, the gaskets, the bearings, the motor, the cooling of all the components. We made it together. Once the compressor was here, we made a test bench, putting all the other parts, which is not easy too, because you have to readjust, you have to evaluate everything. And 2 years ago, we were ready, starting the test bench, making all the tests. And since then, we are selling this kind of units, these high temperature heat pumps up to 120 degrees Celsius. So really high temperature, pressurized water or even steam. And yeah, we are glad that we are having now a few customers which are really confident in this technology. And a lot of new customers approaching us, so we can provide this technology for them. We are analyzing the processes, as Mahijeet already said, then make the right sizing, and then provide it, this technology for their production processes. Very interesting, yeah, indeed.
So, what kind of applications do you see, Steffen, for this high temperature heat pumps?
I see, first of all applications, so all industries. And we see that there will be a natural market for these temperatures up to 120, maybe 140, 150 degrees Celsius. Over that, it will be difficult for the heat pump due to the heat source. So you need a corresponding heat source on a certain level. So above 150 degrees Celsius, it will be more energies like hydrogen, etc. But below that, in my opinion, everything must be decarbonized, means everything must be electrified. Everything must be electrified with renewable energy, water, wind, photovoltaics, etc. So once we have the application, the heat source, the heat sink, in future it will be the heat pump as heating technology for the industry. Of course, we will not have any other technologies available if we are really serious with the climate change and the energy change that we have to do, especially in industry, which is a huge consumer of heat.
Now, game changing, Steffen, because we spend a lot of time in the light industry, and a lot of them really have only heat demand below 120 Celsius. So a heat pump that goes to that level allows for decarbonization without having to do a lot more than just that heat recovery and using those heat pumps. And sometimes we come into applications that absolutely need steam, that we cannot de-steam. But with that heat pump that goes to 120, we technically can make steam. So that's we're using an evaporator. So that's huge. The other question I had is, I know you spent quite some time investigating what working fluid refrigerant to use in those heat pumps. What factors are important when you look at those working fluids?
Yeah, working fluids or refrigerants are really big topic in our industry, because we have to provide one which is at the first level efficient, reliable, adapted to the application. So these are the key parameters. And apart from that, we have to provide working fluids which are environmental friendly. This is a big topic, because some 30, 35 years ago, we used refrigerants having ozone depletion potential, so damaging the ozone layer, which we really had the responsibility and which we had to delete, which we did together with the Montreal Protocol, 1980s, 1990s. And then the next one was the global warming potential. So these working fluids are having a potential of warming the atmosphere. There we are on a good way by developing and using refrigerants which have a low GWP, global warming potential. And then always the task is having the safety requirements, fulfilling the safety requirements, which is flammability. So we try to use non-flammable refrigerant and toxicity. So non-toxic working fluids to avoid high risk, high safety requirements. We are on a good way with that. Not ready, still some work to do, but we are on. We see the responsibility that we are having. We are working on that. We are developing, and yes, the next step that we are doing, and you just see it here behind, is water as refrigerant. Water as refrigerant will be perfect, very demanding, but perfect. And then Patricia and Mahijeet, then we are together again. Our working fluid, refrigerant, water. You are working with steam, yeah. And then the loop is closed. So this will be a nice perspective for the working fluid topic.
Certainly, and very encouraging to know about the massive investments that you are making towards on research and development, towards making things better than yesterday. So very encouraging. On the same note, Steffen, if you can guide us on where do you see with all this development, the heat pump thing evolving in future?
Yeah, as Patricia already said, we have to develop the market. So the market is not really knowing about the technology. We started together with Armstrong. So HHB some 5 years ago in hospitality, pharmacy, and food industry with the big OEMs. A kind of training and introduction of this technology. We had success, so the big global players are already using these technologies for special applications. And the more units we are supplying, the more solutions we provide, the higher the knowledge and the awareness of this technology is in the global market. There are applications which are a little bit easier to realize with heat pump than other ones. We identified that. We started with that. These are closed loop circuits like drying processes, for example, where we also have the dual use, so heating and cooling together, not in a batch process, but in a continuous defined process. So there we are very successful. And then step by step, we have to bring solutions to the customers. They have to analyze, they have to evaluate. And I think there's a lot of work to do for all of us globally in the next years. But identifying applications and working together, cooperating with the customers, this will be the key factor for the next year for all.
Very exciting, Steffen, that the two subject matter experts, Armstrong and Combitherm, joining together towards providing an enjoyable experience and value for money for its users across the world. Maybe to value your time and to value our viewers' time. So thank you so much, Steffen, for your time today, for our association in the last 5 years, wherein customers indeed have saved a lot, and they have been very open in acknowledging the savings that they have really achieved through Armstrong Combitherm heat pumps in their processes. So thank you so much for your time and association. We look forward to continued association with Combitherm in years together. And thanks to you, all the viewers, for spending your time with Armstrong International today. If you are more interested to know about Armstrong's commitment towards decarbonization and the evolving technologies towards making the planet a better place to live in, continue to log into armstronginternational.com. Thank you so much. Have a great day to all of you. Bye, Stephen. Bye, Patricia.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mahijeet.